So welcome everybody. This is our Autodesk bug speaker slot that we have tonight. We've got Michael Brackney and we've got Sophie Max here on March 25th. And so I'm going to turn it over to Michael and he's going to introduce the two of them. So welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. Really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for taking the time to meet tonight. Like Christy said, my name is Michael Brackney, and we've got Sophie Max here from Autodesk. We might have a couple of things that we're sharing that essentially are forward looking. We're a public company, so just got to put up this safe harbor agreement real quick for everybody, just to take a quick look at. And then we'll kind of get going here. So we've got an agenda for you. Just we'll keep it pretty light. So feel free if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand or throw it in the chat. Keep this casual, so no worries there. So we'll do a little intro about myself and Sophie. We'll talk a little bit about the history of Autodesk and dive into some of the industry trends that we're seeing. I know a lot of you are also, working in the industry while you're going to school, so I'm sure a lot of these things are resonating with you, but would also love to hear from you guys of what you're seeing. Um, I'll give a little bit of history of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. I know RJ had brought it up earlier, but it kind of stems all the way back to some of the tools that we had previously with like BIM 360. Then we'll talk a little bit about the product itself and the functions and functionality that it has that helps a lot of folks like you, whether you're a student, to learn how to do an estimate or a takeoff or manage a project, all the way to the industry of actually using these tools that are being used by architects and engineers and contractors. And then I'll do a quick demo and we can kind of walk through the product a little bit. It's a lot to cover, so feel free, again, if you have questions when I'm going through the product, I can try to answer those. I'm not the probably highest technical person, but I'm pretty good with the product, so should be able to answer most of your questions. And then I'll talk a little bit about maybe the future of ACC. You'll see it where it's at, but we'll talk a little bit about maybe what's coming in the future and what you guys can look forward to. And then if we have any other questions and answers at the end that we want to attend to, we can do that. Cool. All right, so a little bit about me. Again, my name is Michael Brackney. Also, feel free to just call me Brack. We have a lot of Michaels on our team, so Brack works totally fine from anybody. I'm originally from Arizona, so I grew up in Phoenix area, but I currently live in Chicago, so it's like 9:30 or something right now here. My degree is in architectural engineering with a focus in construction management, and that's primarily what I've used with the 15 plus years that I've been in the industry. I've worked across a lot of different AECO companies in my career. I started out interning for a transportation company called Michael Baker back in the day. So I was working under a bridge designer, doing a lot of quantity takeoffs, learning tools like AutoCAD and Bentley. I then, after I graduated college, I worked for a general contractor called Whiting Turner in Colorado. We're mostly focused on higher education projects. So I was a project engineer with them, doing a lot of residence halls and laboratory work for CU Boulder, CSU, and UCCS, so University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. I then made the move to Chicago, and I ended up working for the government in a couple different places. I was mainly out at the airports, so I was doing a lot of construction management on behalf of the city at the airports. So we did a lot of the tenant fit outs for the actual terminals, and then a lot of the runway rehabilitation. So we would essentially mill all the asphalt out during the night and then lay it back before the planes would land the next day. And during that time, I noticed there was a lot of inefficiencies in the construction industry and kind of started going towards more the technology side. So I left the government side and worked for a construction services, construction consulting company, doing a lot of BIM and VDC works with like NABIS and clash coordination on behalf of a lot of subcontractors. During that time, my boss asked me to go get my pilot's license to be a drone pilot. So I got my Part 107. So I started doing some drone flights, flying some DJI drones for some construction sites, taking photos, doing photogrammetry, some cut and fill analysis and things. And then was brought over to Autodesk, which where I've been about for the last 5 years. So more on the software side, helping a lot of general contractors, engineers, essentially use a lot of our more specific construction tools and helping them implement those. Outside of the construction industry and my job, I love riding my bike here in Chicago. I also do some improv comedy out here, which is very fun. And then I love to travel. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. With that, I'll maybe pass it over to Sophie.
Awesome. It's great to be here with you all, and thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. It was Michael and I were excited to hear what you all are interested in, what you're studying. So thank you for sharing. So a little bit about me. I'm a marketing manager at Autodesk. I'm originally from San Francisco. Lived in the Midwest for 10 years, mostly in Chicago. And then now I'm back in San Francisco. So in California, like most of you probably. My degree is not in anything related to AEC. My degree is in anthropology, with a minor in educational studies and American studies. So very far from the AEC industry. But I think maybe in particular the educational studies piece, but also a little bit the anthropology piece, I think brought me to the AECO industry. For I've been, I guess, working in industry solely on the software side for the last almost 7 years. The first 6 were at Bluebeam as part of their education team. And I helped Christy found this Bluebeam user group back in, I don't know, 2018, 2019. So it's great to be back with this group, although I don't think I know any of the students anymore. Um, and then I joined Autodesk's education team about 10 months ago. So it's been a great transition. I'm excited to be back here. You know, to me, I love being with students, with educators, and um, I've got a different hat on, different company, but love being a part of these groups. Outside of work, love hiking, traveling, reading, and photography. Those are some of the main ones. So excited to be here. And yeah, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and we'll answer them as we go. And Michael has a lot of phenomenal experience. So if you have any questions about his experience, I know drones are a hot topic. Ask the questions, fire away.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's what we're here for.
I actually have a question. What is the AC or AECO? What's the O in the AECO?
Yeah, so for us, at least on the software side, it represents owners.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and oh, go ahead.
we capture kind of that whole ecosystem. So all the different personas that essentially would touch the project, whether you're an owner or you're their architect, engineer, or the contractor. So AECO is kind of encompasses maybe some of the operations of a building or a new build of who's managing it after it's been built.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. And I've got to say, there's not many people that do improv, but we actually have an improv consultant come and help us on the commercial team do
Whoa.
presenting and stuff in construction. And it's just absolutely amazing. And so I encourage you, Michael. Improv is so awesome. So that's great. And I wanted to tell you, Sophie, that Jonathan Odima's name came up. If you remember Jonathan, he went to Washington, D.C.
Yes, that
And
was a
I
long.
was like, oh my gosh, it was like a blast from the past. I was going to tell you that his name came up, and I was like, oh, I got to tell her that I heard about Jonathan. He was one of our first bug leaders, and we had such a good time um, in Washington, D.C. So
That's great.
yeah.
That's so
So
fun.
yeah, so go ahead and we'd like to hear more. So
Yeah, let's do it. So we'll start off with maybe a little bit of an activity. So if you guys want to get ready and get your keyboards and your fingers loose here, if you want to just put in the chat just any of the products that maybe come to mind when you think of Autodesk. I think this is a good exercise just to start thinking about maybe any products. If you don't know any, that's totally fine. But if you have any products that come to mind in terms of Autodesk, feel free, throw that in the chat. Want to just kind of see what your familiarity is with us as a company. And we can kind of like dive into, a little bit about some of the tools that you guys know of, and then maybe we can talk about some of the other tools that maybe you're less familiar with. Cool. All right, we got some good ones already. Revit, a classic. We've got Buzzsaw RJ pulling out the old school Buzzsaw. We love it. Christy, Fusion and ACC, beautiful. Awesome. Cool. Any other ones? All right. Well, maybe we'll kind of show you one of the ones that maybe comes to most of people's minds. Yep, exactly. I know we've got, yeah, Ron and RJ, yeah, AutoCAD. So AutoCAD was really our OG. That was like our first tool that we developed. This is over 40 years ago. And this was kind of what put us on the map. And I think when most people think of Autodesk, they think of AutoCAD. But really, we've done so much more over the last 40 years and expanded into all these other places that, yeah, so Civil 3D is another one, Karan. BIM 360 is one that RJ had previously brought up. Yep, a month. Exactly, BIM 360. So this was really one of our first cloud-based project management tools, being able to store a model in the cloud, being able to like start some basic functionality of viewing and manipulating. Navisworks, another good one. Let's see if I've got that one. Yep, Navisworks was next. Good work. And this was one of the tools that we ended up acquiring back in the day, but was more of a visualization and for BIM and VDC folks that were looking to do clash coordination and model coordination. Tandem, nice. That's a newer one. RJ, love that one. Yeah, Tandem is something that maybe we'll talk about. I've got a little slide for that. But then one of our newer tools is really the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And what is happening with the Autodesk Construction Cloud is it's taking a lot of the legacy tools that we previously had that were specific to construction. So things like BIM 360, Building Connected, exactly, Plan Grid, Pipe, some of these functionalities all into one place in a centralized platform. So good, awesome. Thank you guys for participating. Cool. So then maybe I'll talk a little bit about maybe just the history of Autodesk. We'll just kind of get into who we are and some stats about us. So we're a global company. We've got folks that are across 47 countries that work for us. We got our start again in AutoCAD about 40 years ago, but really that was just the beginning. And we've expanded a lot since then, and a lot of our tools are even outside of the AECO industry now. So we have actually a couple different verticals. Manufacturing, that's the tool that Christy was actually, she'd put in the chat, was Fusion. We see a lot of like mechanical engineers use Fusion. We also have an entertainment vertical as well. So these are things like 3D animation tools, a tool called Maya. That's what you'll see for maybe a lot of movies like Pixar movies. They use a lot of Autodesk tools to develop a lot of their animated versions. But then, of course, construction. And between all of those different verticals, we have over 200 million users across our entire portfolio. So a big user base. And then specifically for construction, we have over 2.6 million active projects across 150 countries. So we're in different languages. We are across the world. Building construction projects with our software across the world. So why is this important to you? On the right hand side, we have a lot of the folks that maybe you guys are looking to work for or work with. and they're using Autodesk tools, right? So they're the ones that are tackling firsthand all of the industry problems, and they need smart folks like you that can learn the software, but also know about construction and really tackle these things together. So that's really where we're trying to connect the dots, is being able to provide software that helps the industry and educate young folks and people in the industry so they can do their job more efficiently. They can get home safely, and not have to work hopefully too much overtime unless you're getting paid for it, right? Cool. Any questions on some of the history stuff? Feel free again, uh, throw anything in the chat. Happy to kind of take those questions as you guys have them. So with, Autodesk just specifically, we have been in the AECO industry for a long time, and there's been a lot of industry strain right now. So we're under a lot of pressure. There are so many things like tight margins and profit. We have things like digital disruption, which involves us, right, as software providers, but there's a lot of different people trying to alleviate some of these pains in the software industry. We have folks that are requiring quicker turnarounds. Maybe it's required by the owners or by the customers. We have supply chain issues. We have natural disasters. We have pandemics. We have a retiring workforce. A lot of these things are adding up, and this makes you guys in high demand, right? Like, we need to solve these problems, and construction companies are willing to pay a pretty penny to hire you to help deal with these problems. And we think software is a part of that solution. We don't think software is the only solution, right? A software is a tool, just like a hammer, right? Like, we still have to use a hammer to hit a nail. We still have to use software to solve some of these problems, and there's specific ways we do this. Want to maybe throw it back to you guys. If you have anything specifically that is top of your mind that has been, that you think the construction or AECO industry is having to deal with right now, something that maybe, maybe that retiring workforce, or maybe they are not up to change. We have superintendents and folks that are in the field that don't want to, they just want to deal with paper. They don't want to learn software. Are there things that you guys are seeing that are causing a lot of strain on the industry right now?
Christy had some great ones in the chat. Exactly what you just said, Brack, but pressure with the digital divide between generations. And then she also named cost escalations due to tariffs.
Yeah,
Totally.
100%. A lot of these things are putting a lot of strain and pressure, and people are having to try to be nimble in these situations, right? We've committed to an owner that we are going to, do this project in steel. Maybe a lot of the steel is coming from China. With these tariffs, that price just went up. So now, do we try to do and build it maybe close to one of our neighbors through Canada, or maybe some of these other steel mills in Pennsylvania? How are we dealing with things? So a lot of these pieces are putting pressure on our day-to-day work. And I think, part of this is not only just the strains on the industry, it's just how the industry itself works. It's complicated because we have so many different personas and folks that are stakeholders that are a part of the life cycle of a project, right? We have the asset owners, so those are typically the people that own the building after, or own the road after. We have the architect, the engineers who are actually designing it. We have the contractors who are actually building it. And each one of these individual stakeholders have a specific, unique set of priorities, right? They have different ways of working. Maybe they are committed to doing everything in paper. They don't want to do anything in software. Maybe their maturity with technology is very low. Maybe they haven't had the experience or been trained up to speed with the latest software. They don't have it in their budget. Or maybe they just don't have that level of comfort, like Christy was talking about, that divide between generations. Like, they're just going to push it to the younger generation, and they don't want to deal with the change. They'll put it on you guys. And so that makes it hard. That makes the industry tough. It makes a lot of opportunity as well for us, though, right? We have the ability to connect these stakeholders. We have the ability to take and learn from these different stakeholders and do that through a lot of these different softwares by consolidating and having a lot of that data in one place. Um, I don't know if you guys have any experience in terms of how you have had to work across these different stakeholders, but like on a project or maybe just in general, have any thoughts of, how that works on a project, whether that's maybe email or texts or communicating through a software. What's been your experience of having to share and connect stakeholders across, running a project?
So maybe some of you that have had internships or that are working out in the industry like Prem or um, I'm trying to think Hemant, some of you that actually have been working. I know for myself, there's definitely challenges with a variety of things that people know and they don't know. And so that's just really creating a lot of holes, I would say. And then I think the other challenge is that, and this was one of my questions to ask you guys, is how is Autodesk kind of integrating with other software? Because it just seems like the construction industry especially is very a hodgepodge disconnected in terms of digital technology. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
that's perfect that's bringing like everything together, but maybe Autodesk is one of those. But you go to a company or a project, Michael, and they're all using different things. And so
Yeah.
we've in the bug user group have invited different companies to come in. DPR's using something different than Turner, AECom's using
Yeah.
something different than Query, and it's not to say it's bad. It's just, for students going out into the industry, I tell the students, you can't just learn one software because otherwise you're going to be left behind as we move, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. You got to be able to be adaptable.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think a lot of the software providers understand this and are trying to play well with each other in the sandbox in terms of sharing, APIs and being able to share that data across their individual systems and allow them to connect. I know we are working on developing additional APIs for different parts of our platform. But we do have open APIs for a lot of ACC that allows that flow of connectivity and data transfer. It's not perfect. I think there's still a lot of growth to be had in that respect. And it's hard because, we're in a free market, we're in a capitalistic place where, folks want flexibility, they want options, they want to be able to choose. And a lot of those companies are trying to choose what is the best solution for themselves. And I think at least from the beginning part of your career and going through academia right now is understanding how all those workflows are very similar across the tools, and then start getting exposure to those tools and being able to understand maybe some of the nuance. Maybe you don't have to know every pick and click, but understanding how that information flows across and how to do those things in general, maybe a little bit of theory and understanding, why do we need RFIs? Why do we need submittals? Why do we need a schedule or 2 week look aheads? Understanding those things. And then we can figure out, okay, how do I do it in Microsoft Project versus Planera versus P6 versus all those things, right? So it is a really good question. And I think some of the bigger players are trying to consolidate and have that all in one place, but still need to be able to be adaptable and connect to all other tools because is so much innovation happening in construction technology right now too. There's a ton of construction technology startups and they're doing really cool stuff. And we need to be able to like work with those folks to make the industry better.
Well, and I think too, cost is a big factor. I don't know if you guys on the software side have experienced this, but when you go to a small company or a medium-sized company or a large company, each one of those is going to be able to afford something different. And
Yeah,
some may not be able to have the bells and whistles that AECom has. Like RJ has a
sure.
ton of different software that he has access to.
Yeah.
So,
And I think, SaaS, software as a service right now, there is decent flexibility in allowing kind of the at least entry into a lot of these softwares, because most of them you can buy a one-off license, but then you're right. So like AECom can buy in bulk, can buy in size, and then with that size that they also have influence. So they can say, hey, Mr. Software Provider, I'm probably one of your biggest customers, and I want your tool to do this. They are going to have more influence on the product than, say, a mom and pop shop that maybe only have one license, right? So there is some give and take there, but there are options for a lot of these smaller companies to get at least some exposure and learn these softwares and apply it and grow with scale with it, I believe.
And I think just to add, Christy, and for all of the students as well, and for, RJ, I'll be curious to hear, kind of your thoughts on that question too at the end of this presentation. Um, because I think Autodesk is doing, I mean, obviously I work for Autodesk, and I think, as Michael said, we really live in in a capitalist society. But I think Autodesk does a really good job with Autodesk Construction Cloud, which you'll learn about a lot more in a second. But the combining of tools and products that span the project life cycle, I think, is helping. I don't know. I think that's maybe part of the solution to your question as well. It's making more products available that you can use throughout more of your workflows.
mhm.
But yeah, I'll be curious. Um, that's coming from someone who hasn't worked in the industry, right? I've just worked on the software side, so that's just more of my observation than my real world experience.
Well, and the other thing too is, with the students, I think, and especially our undergraduates are probably going to be more working for construction companies, probably some of our graduates as well, but our graduates come with a lot of technical experience with a lot of the software that you guys have here at Autodesk. And they're also learning other software too. And I just think we're in a really interesting time. I mean, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've been more of a technical person with technology than probably most people my age. And it's really set my ticket for the rest of my career. But one of the things that I've been trying to promote, and the students can kind of attest to this too, is that not every student is going to want to work for a GC, and just like you, Michael, you've gone into more technology. I've told the students here and even our graduate students that don't, don't just focus on the GCs. If you want to go into technology and be a sponge and try and learn as much as you can before you get out into the industry so that you can help navigate in these places where there's a lot of holes. We're in this divide to try and connect people.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's really valuable because I think there's a ton of experience and learning to happen those first couple of years of, whether you work for a GC or you want to go work for an architecture firm or you want to, start your own home building business, whatever it is. I think there's a ton of experience to learn there, and then kind of also expand that, like start figuring out what you're enjoying about this process in construction. Like I think Christy, you said you were more project control, so like, oh, cool. I really enjoy scheduling and putting together these pieces and understanding what is this delay going to affect, 3 weeks from now in my schedule, right? So it's like trying to figure out as you enter in the industry what is really enjoyable for you and continue to like follow that piece that you're enjoying. And if there's a hurdle there, maybe you're the one that needs to solve it, right? Like I think PlanGrid was started by Tracy Young, uh, 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 engineer who ended up working, I think it was for a GC in San Francisco, saw that there was huge issues with punch lists. She was like, I hate this. This is terrible. I have an Excel spreadsheet. I have my sheets that I have to like go and mark up like in the field. And she came up with PlanGrid, and she's like, I need to be able to just drop on a iPad these little pins so I can track all my punch lists and simplify that. And that was just, she had the experience, she had the knowledge, and she, went and tackled some of these problems. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity because there's a lot of folks that are already starting and, building these new companies like that.
Yeah, and this is a side note because I'm going to just tag on this, Michael, because you even alluded to it, that I think gone are the days that, like even university work, and our construction management programs, it kind of funneled our students through like a GC program, and they go and work for GCs. And I think with all this technology and AI and all these things, I think it's like going deep down in your soul and figuring out what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And you can do anything you want with this technology, anything. I mean, really, you can, and everything that we do is going to be touching on this technology. And so I think it's really finding what you're good at, like your niche, and then running with it.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point because in general, when we first, maybe this is an overgeneralization, but it's like when you're growing up, it was like, here are the 10 things I want to be when I grow up. It's like I want to be the doctor or a professional athlete or, an architect or whatever. And it's like, if you said you wanted to be a contractor, that can mean so many things now. Like there's 20 different jobs within a general contractor. There's 20 different jobs that a software could provide to help that general contractor. So there's like, don't feel like just because you chose this one path that it's so narrow for you. I think there's so much possibility to grow and really, learn so much and contribute to this industry in so many meaningful ways. So cool. I love it. This is great. All right, I'll keep going unless anybody else has any other questions or comments. I've got a couple more slides that maybe these are just a couple of industry stats and things. But just with all those complexities in mind, a lot of the data behind our decisions are really, not being used to help its end users. And so the reality is that we're executing a project on a lot of very fragmented information across all these different stakeholders and stuff. And so this data point, 96% of all data goes unused, is from an FMI report, and is really just saying we have all of this great, rich information, but we're not really using it, right? It's like we could be using a lot of this information to iterate and understand what went well, what didn't go well, what could be improved. And I think this is one of the pieces that Autodesk is looking to make a dent in. Maybe we're not going to solve it all, but I think by having some of our what we're calling a common data environment with like the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we are at least in the process of taking the step in the right direction to help us look back and use this data to make informed decisions to hopefully make your jobs easier in the future. And then here's just a bunch of headlines in terms of just like the risk associated with not having information and not, making informed decisions. So a lot of things that, hopefully, with the right information and being able to collaborate and communicate effectively, we can, not have to have a lot of these issues with delays and issues with quality and different pieces. And then I'll do one more final little stat here. I don't know if anybody, some of the folks you said had internships, has anybody had to deal with rework, kind of the dreaded rework of being in a general contractor, right? Um, and so it's maybe like a hole cut out in a wall that's in the wrong place for a pipe, so we've got to now cut another hole, right? So a lot of these things are just based on information of the folks that need to be making these cuts in the wall or whatever. They need to be informed, and they need to have the information so they can do their job well. And it's these types of things that we're also trying to make an impact in, so we can prevent things like rework. I think for the most part, there's always going to be maybe a little bit of rework that's going to happen across a project. But I think with having the right information, the most up-to-date drawings, the most up-to-date specs, we can make sure that, the right information's in the right people's hands so they can get the job done right. And we're talking $88 billion could have been saved in terms of rework if a lot of these folks didn't have to go back and redo the things that they had already done, which is wild. So it's a big dollar value. All right. So then I think maybe tying this into Autodesk and where we stand, I think for a long time we're seeing a lot of the disconnect that's happening across the entire industry. But really, I think Autodesk, we feel like uh, we are working to really make a new reality and make this a little bit more connected. And we are looking to help customers kind of achieve this new reality with like an efficient platform solution that is cloud-based, right? Again, we've been in the industry since the days of AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Revit. We've grown with the industry, and we want to continue to grow with the industry. And that has really been the culmination of really the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And we have this slide, and this is just really showing that for the most part, we have tools that are a part of the design process: Revit, AutoCAD, Civil 3D. We now have the Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is really our construction management, our quality tool. It has cost, it has estimating, it has BIM workflows. And then we also have some of these tools like RJ brought up, was like Tandem and some of the operation types tools. So we feel like we're uniquely positioned to really take a project really, what it's cradle to grave, right? From the beginning all the way to the end. All right. So now maybe I'll talk a little bit about just the history of ACC. Maybe I can pause. Was there any other questions or anything? Feel free again, throw anything in the chat. I know I'm kind of ripping through some of this stuff. Cool.
I think we're good, Michael.
Okay, great. So yeah, just maybe a little bit of history for us from kind of the architecture to like, we started in AutoCAD to where we are today. Um, you know, Before CAD, it was analog, right? I don't know if you guys have seen that photo of like 40 architects in a room leaning over and drawing on their Mylar drawings and everything. And that is a day of the past where we're sitting behind our computers using AutoCAD. And we are, constantly driving change, which has gone from, CAD to things like BIM, to now to things that are more of a connected BIM. And we're continuing to push that into, more connected workflows with a lot of these 3D models and 4D models that we have, not only from the design process, but through construction and operation, which is, Tandem is really that 3D model of managing and operating a building from like a digital twin. And so the Autodesk Construction Cloud really started its journey back here in about 2007 when we acquired Navisworks. So again, that VDC tool. And then we had some of these other acquisitions, which were mostly BIM 360. So that was really our first project management tool, which was cloud-based. And then we acquired that tool that I was talking about, Tracy Young, was PlanGrid, which was really the mobile first tool. So this was a lot of superintendents who were using their iPads in the field to see drawings, mark up drawings. We also acquired Building Connected. This was a tool more focused on a bid management platform, so being able to effectively bid on projects. We also acquired Assemble, which was like a 3D modeling conditioning tool, which you could use for progress tracking or quantity takeoffs. And a lot of this has now been really brought in and folded into what we're now calling the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And what you're seeing here in the yellow is a lot of the different pieces and tools that are now a part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So things like Docs, Autodesk Build, Autodesk Takeoff, BIM Collaborate. We even now have parts of a tool that we acquired called Pipe, which is a tool called AutoSpecs, which I can show you quickly when we jump into it. And we're making connections from these tools into some of our legacy tools. So now we have integrations with things like AutoCAD, Navisworks, Revit. So that way you can effectively communicate and collaborate across these different teams and stakeholders, right? So we can have our modeler update our BIM, mechanical drawing in Revit, update it, and then we can have RJ actually, who's doing the coordination, go in and double check and make sure that they fixed for that clash and took care of it. And all that's happening seamlessly across the cloud. So a lot of these different pieces have now brought us to really where we are, and we're not stopping there. We're really looking to continue to invest in construction. We have a couple of more recent acquisitions, an acquisition called GC Pay, which is really more of a payment platform that we're looking to here hopefully bring into the construction cloud here in the next couple of years or so. Who knows? And then who knows what's next? We're constantly developing and releasing new features in our tool sets about every 2 months actually for the Autodesk Construction Cloud.
So I actually have some questions.
Yeah, let them rip.
So, the first one, well, I'll wait on the first one. So does Autodesk have something similar to like Review, where it's online collaboration tool?
In what sense are you talking about review? So, like, what piece are you reviewing?
So are you able to like get online and like use all of these tools and kind of go in and out and use it? Like say for example, that you like Bluebeam review, and this is where it's kind of like
Oh,
my
got it.
integration. Yeah, so like it integrates all of these tools together so that you can use all of them and kind of go in and out and hyperlink them, etc.
Yeah, exactly. So there are parts of that that are kind of seamless across the different tools, and maybe I
Uh-huh.
can show this in the next piece here in terms of like the greater design and construction ecosystem. So
Uh-huh.
like what you're talking about, Christy, right? We have this bottom piece called docs. And this is really what we're calling really our common data environment, where we're storing all of our files and you can access them from different parts of the ecosystem. So I can store a Revit file in docs and then I can open it in Revit. And then when I save it, it saves it to the cloud and it's still in docs. But then I can go into another tool called like Autodesk Build and open that same Revit file without, the functionality of changing the actual model, but now I can view it. Maybe I can add issues or different things in it, but it's that same model that was just saved from, let's say Sophie was in there doing some fun
Okay.
architecture stuff. So all of that is maybe similar to kind of like the Bluebeam review, where you're able to kind of have that information and share it. People can be in it at the same time. They can edit. There's a lot of functionality in terms of collaborating together across these tools.
And so on the back end, it's like an implementation expert would be the person that gives access to those things.
Yeah, so we typically have a couple levels of access in terms of managing that. So we have an account administrator and then we have a project administrator. And so depending at what level you're at, the administrator, we always like to say, like, has the keys to the castle, right?
Mhm.
And then the project administrator has like the keys to like a specific section of the house, right?
Right.
So it's like, so there's different functionalities that are allowed there, and either limits or allows access. And then below project administrator is just a member. So that would be somebody like, hey, I can invite a subcontractor that's going to work with me on this project. They might just be a member.
Or a superintendent.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just want
exactly.
to view things and don't want them to go in there and mess anything up.
Yeah,
So, so that's interesting. So now this is another question too, like, I personally like the dashboard that Bluebeam has where you can set up hyperlinks and hyperlink out that dashboard and access all of these, like set it up as almost like a dashboard for your project, and it could
yeah.
be creative and whatever. Does are you able to do that, or is it something that you can integrate the two? Which it sounds like you could integrate the two really easily.
Yeah, so we have some dashboarding capabilities of our own, and I can show you some of those here in a second. And we have some tie-ins with some more powerful backend tools like Power BI. So we have Power BI dashboards that we've built out that essentially you can adjust and manipulate for your own use. And then you could share out that dashboard as like a view, which would then have like the ability, some of those have like a drop down selection, like, hey, I want to see all of my um, higher education projects. I'm the GC working, like I'm an executive. I don't want to see, hey, how's the executive or the higher education team doing? I can see
Mm-hmm.
their 4 projects and, you know, um, based on some data points that I want to see. So yeah, there's quite a few different opportunities and options there.
Yeah, interesting. And the last thing that I'm going to ask here is it looks like you guys have all these tools,
Yeah.
but I don't see, you guys don't have a scheduling tool, do you?
No, so we are not looking to compete with other scheduling tools. We think that is, I mean, it's very necessary, but we are going to be more of an ingesting tool. So
Does it
we
say
will
that last word?
ingesting. So we will ingest a schedule and allow you to visualize it, but we will not be like for the most part creating schedules in our tool. So like
Interesting.
the standard is really P6 Microsoft Project. You've got some
Mm-hmm.
new players with tools like Planera, which is a really cool tool, but we are looking to essentially extract that data and make it visible for the stakeholders to see and be able to understand what's happening. And I can show you that there too. There is
Yeah,
some like full planning and some like maybe 2 week look ahead schedule stuff that you could do based on off that master schedule, but we're not looking to create master schedules, at least
I see.
internally.
And I'm sure Sophie and also RJ, you kind of know where I'm headed here. Like I'm wondering how it seems like all of these can integrate with one another if you really wanted to, if you, I mean, and Autodesk seems extremely powerful with a variety of other things that some of the other software might not have at all. And so there's some great value in this. So hopefully the students, you see this. I know just to kind of catch you guys up, Sophie and Michael, our kickoff meeting, RJ actually talked about some of these things and also how to set up a dashboard. And so that's why I brought it up. I
Yeah,
was like, oh, interesting. So you can kind of integrate all this if you wanted to.
What
yeah.
what
And
I wanted to I was gonna add, sorry Michael for
no,
interrupting.
please go ahead.
I was gonna add too as as you guys as the students get more exposed to technology and the different solutions out there, what you're gonna end up becoming is a systems integrator for these different types of tools. And there's not a one catch-all solution for your process. So you might have to integrate different tools like Autodesk, ACC, Bluebeam into technology workflow or your technology stack. So you go in any of these top 10 GCs or design firms, you're not going to see one software solution. There's multiple, depending on the use case, depending on who's using it. And so you're going to have to learn how to integrate these systems together, make them work and be efficient for your use.
Yep, 100%, RJ. I think that's a really good point because, you know, across the industry, there's different project types. They're tackling different types of scopes, whether it's vertical construction or horizontal construction. There's different tools for each of these types of industries, and they may work better in different regions as well. Maybe they work well with IDOT, or maybe work better in the private sector with, these folks. So hopefully this isn't to say like overwhelm you guys or make this feel daunting, but hopefully it's more of like, hey, there's so many options, and I think the this is hopefully allowing you to see that you can explore and figure out what you really like and what you enjoy. Because if you get really good at one software, I'm sure you can figure out these other ones, right? Like I think there's a lot of opportunity to figure out what's good, and what one software what does better. So that way you can become like RJ, you're saying, that kind of integration expert, that expertise in the technology piece of what's going to be able to be applied to your company's specific like workflows.
Digital buffet. I love it.
Yeah, everybody loves a buffet. Cool. So maybe I'll finish up on this slide, but yeah, this is really just our ecosystem. The construction cloud really incorporates these four middle squares. So the BIM collaborate piece, build, takeoff, and then our cloud work sharing, which is also called BIM collaborate pro, and then docs. And then on the left-hand side, we have a lot of those legacy tools. So AutoCAD, Revit, Navisworks, Recap if you guys are doing point clouds or drone work. And then Autodesk Forma is a relatively newer tool. So maybe, I know we have some architecture folks in here. I would definitely recommend checking out Autodesk Forma. It is a generative design tool during the schematic phase, so you can start to understand and visually see what your building may look like in space. So you can actually go into the world, pick where your plot of land is, and then you can start to play with the geometry, understand maybe what the light's going to do to it, what the surrounding buildings are going to do to it. Is there reflection? Is there shadows? All of those different pieces. Autodesk Form is a really cool tool. We have some of our other point solutions in this bottom left. So Assemble, ProEst, Pipe, Building Connected. And then on the right-hand side, I know RJ, you'd mentioned, I think both of these. Autodesk Tandem is really our digital twin tool. So this is things for maybe like operating a building and being able to have a track asset history in a 3D model. And then Autodesk XR, this is really our mixed reality VR tool that we're developing. We acquired a company called The Wild a couple of years ago, and we're looking to bring that into the ecosystem as well to visualize a lot of these architectural and construction elements in a VR mixed reality headset. All right, maybe a quick overview of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and then I'll maybe jump into a demo. How are we doing on time? All right, we got a little bit of time. We're doing good. All right,
I was gonna
so
say
here
we
is
ask a lot of questions, Michael.
yeah, no, this is great. I'm loving it. This is fun. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Feel free again, stop me anytime. But yeah, here's the kind of breakdown of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. One thing to note, at least maybe for Christy and RJ too, like as educators, all of our software is free. There are some pieces that maybe are not available quite yet. So tools like Tandem and the Workshop XR are not available quite yet. We're working on hopefully bringing those to educators in the future. It's not available right now, but tools from the Autodesk Construction Cloud, things like Build, which is really very similar to Procore, right? It is a project management tool in and out. It does cost, it does RFIs, it does submittals. You can view your models, view all your sheets, all of those things. RJ, I see you came off mute. Did you want to say something?
No, that's yeah. I wasn't expecting you to see it, but good eye. Yeah, I use the the educator plan or the education plan for the class I taught this year. So we got into they were able to access Revit, Navisworks, and then also we went into ACC to do some mock workflows with RFIs
Awesome.
and design collaboration too. Kind of did that with
That's
Revit.
great.
And with the educator access, are you able to give the students access as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
Oh,
you can get
nice.
it for like a year, right, Michael? They have that, or as long as they meet the criteria of being a student in your class.
Exactly. Yep. So they've got to meet those requirements, but then you as the educator essentially will create your own little hub. And we have two options. You have essentially what we're calling it's like a just an educator's hub, and it's like 250 licenses. So you would become the account admin, like I was talking about those permissions. So Christy, if you signed up, you'd have 250 Autodesk Construction Cloud licenses. Those are typically we think of those as maybe just like a one-off class that you're thinking to use. We also have what we're calling the IT Administrator Hub, and that comes with 3,000 licenses. So if you're looking to roll it out across your campus, the IT Administrator might be a little bit easier and better just from you don't have to worry about counting licenses, right? With 250, you might run up to that pretty quickly if you've got a pretty big cohort. So and there's no other like additional requirements from the like educators hub to the IT administrators hub, as long as you have a educator's email domain and you fill out like our general information, you should be set for that. And I think the educator 250 licenses is good for 1 year. The IT administrator one is good for 3.
I see. And so the 250, it just times out everybody at the end of the year and then you start over again. You got 250 again.
You'll be able to self-renew. So essentially you'll get a notice within 30 days of your like expiration, and you as the account admin would be able to renew.
I see. And so you wouldn't lose all your stuff. It would just be new students
Exactly.
coming in. I see.
Yep.
I
Interesting.
I would say I would add to that in terms of access and how easy your students will be able to access ACC. Unlike some of the other softwares that are graphics heavy, like Revit or I don't know, Navisworks, AutoCAD. What what we're able to do for my class is because ACC is web based. Accessing it is super easy. You can, if you have internet connectivity, you should be able to get into ACC and start using it right away without having the hardware limitations that you would typically have on authoring or design softwares like Revit. So it's a really cool program to participate, Christy, and it's really easy to get access as an educator.
Nice. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah. Okay, and then maybe I'll finish up these. Takeoff, really, again, our quantification tool, and then BIM Collaborate. We have really two pieces. One is really the design collaboration piece. We see a lot of architects and maybe design build firms that are using the design collaboration piece. This is a way to essentially go through your design iteration process with your engineers, with your architects in a little bit of a more visual planned out way. So I can maybe show a little bit of that here in a second. Yeah, here's docs. This is really, again, that common data environment where you can view your models without having access to Revit, right? It'll still be a Revit file, but you can just view this in your web browser, which is pretty slick. And then build, again, a lot of those project management, RFIs, punch list items. And this is both for not only the web, but also we have an iPad app. So this is kind of going back to the PlanGrid days. This is where we were really, back in the day, a mobile first tool where you could pull up your sheets, zoom in, zoom out on your iPad without having to have, 1,000 sheets of paper. BIM Collaborate, here's the kind of web-based clash detection or model coordination piece, as well as that design collaboration piece. And then finally Takeoff. which is pretty similar to like an on-screen takeoff. We can do 2D and 3D takeoffs. And I think that's maybe our key differentiator is really the 3D model. If you're building a pretty strong LOD model and have a lot of those elements tied to strong classifications, you can actually do a pretty decent takeoff and compare your 3D model to, say, your 2D takeoff. And then I wanted to
Was
just maybe bring up, yeah, go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, I had a quick question, and maybe Sophie knows this. Sophie, did you go to ASC in Reno? Yeah,
Yeah,
you did.
yeah.
So I'm curious. s- these competitions are somewhat old school in the way they're using technology and stuff. Has there been any talk about pulling all of these competitions into like Autodesk?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I think it would be really interesting. So maybe actually Michael can speak on this a little bit, but I mean, I think all of the industry companies who are sponsoring the different problems at the competition in Reno, I mean, all of them are our customers, all of them are Bluebeam's customers, they use all of the software, right?
Right.
But I think WebCore, Michael heard from WebCore, they were sponsoring one of the problems, and Michael, I don't know if they mentioned, anything about like using specific software, but Christy, I've had the same question. I think at this point it's a little too old school to to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of an old school way of doing the competitions. I
Yeah.
know when we've gone to ABC, and you guys actually might consider going to ABC. It's gonna be in Salt Lake next year, so it's not far from you, Michael. But ABC has a lot more and those of you that are, I think a few of you might even be interested in joining the commercial team. There's a lot more 3D, twin motion, BIM. We use Building Connected at ABC. So there's a lot more Autodesk that's being used on a regular basis in that competition than ASC, which is kind of old school. So
That's
I
really good
just,
to know.
huh?
That's really good to know.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's a different vibe, a totally different vibe. Ones, all these schools go to, and I would say ABC is a little bit more, not to say that ASC isn't professional, but it's more professional. There's a lot more technology, I think, that's being used and stuff. And I'm almost thinking that this next year we might actually go there instead of ASC, just because I think it's more forward thinking in the future. Yeah, it's fun to have everybody go, with all the students and stuff. And we might, still go, we might even go to both. But I would say ABC is more on the front end of the technology.
Interesting.
yeah.
Mhm.
I've worked with some of those folks on the commercial side that are a part of the ABC Technology Committee.
Mm.
So yeah, that makes sense. That resonates with me.
Mhm. Yeah, you guys might check it out though. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be in Salt Lake this next year.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm down at Salt Lake. Get some skiing in while we're there, hopefully.
Yeah.
Is it winter time when it's happening? That's fine.
Yes. It'll be in March, the middle of March.
Get some spring skiing.
Spring
Okay.
skiing.
Yeah.
You can get a suntan.
Yeah, there we go. I need it. All right, I'll finish up on a couple of these just like customer quotes and some of these case studies and things, but really these are just some of the folks that are in the industry using these tools that are really seeing the impacts of these software pieces that are improving their collaboration with not only, their design teams, but the trade teams that they work with, and they've really found that by adopting really a cloud-based platform, right? That's easy to use. You can just open up your web browser and access the information you need has really been a game changer for them to make decisions with all of their different stakeholders. So this is DPR. I've got another one with my Well, let's go to my next slide. There we go. Barton Mallow as well. And Barton Mallow, kind of what you were talking about previously, Christy, right? Was they had been using 9 different types of software tools and solutions to really execute on their projects, and we're really impressed with being able to kind of narrow it down to ACC. They're still using other tools as well to make sure, there's a lot of great technology out there, but by really kind of narrowing it down and having it all in one place really allowed them to simplify their workflows and really drive some efficiency by using tools like this. So good stuff. And then I'll maybe end with this, and this is just some quotes from some of our customers that are using the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And I mean, honestly, I'm a little less interested in the quotes, but more focused on the kind of depth in terms of the different job titles that these people have, kind of going back to all the different folks. We've got project managers, we've got VDC managers, we've got directors of innovation that are seeing the impacts of this. So again, for you as students and folks that are going to be entering the workforce, there are parts and places for you to really thrive and figure out what you guys are wanting to do, and using these tools, using other tools that can make your lives hopefully a lot better. All right, I think that's it for my slides. Live demo. All right, stop sharing. Let's close that. And let's reshare. Uh-oh. There we go.
Oh, I was like, where did RJ go? He's out there in the waiting room. I think he lost internet.
He got back from
Yeah, I just let him back in.
he
Hey,
finished
RJ.
his seafood dinner and he's
Thank
ready
you.
for more.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want to miss this part.
Yeah, no, RJ could probably lead this stuff, man. He probably knows it all. Cool. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
And it should be, you should see like the black banner of the Autodesk Construction Cloud at the top.
Yep.
And then build. All right, love it. All right, so here is the Autodesk Construction Cloud. I am inside of the build product. I know that from our little product picker up here in the top left. So you can see all of the different pieces here that are all a part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So like Christy, you were talking about dashboarding and things. That can be found in the Insights tab. We have cost management, so that's where you could do a lot of contracts and forecasting. We have auto specs, which is really, man, I don't know if folks that are entering the workforce even know that this is a thing anymore, but we used to have to go through the spec book and have to create a submittal log and a submittal registry for a new project, and it would take like 2 weeks. You'd have couple thousand pages of spec books, and you'd have to create all the submittal items that you had to submit to the architect and
Yeah, we
engineer.
still do that if we're not using this.
Okay, so now we have tools like auto specs, where essentially, I mean, I think it's good to learn, right? Like you got to know how to read a spec, but really, we've got this technology that essentially reads all of the spec book, and then it creates essentially a register of all of the different things that you need to actually put together in terms of the product data and different pieces. It links it. Let me see if I have some of these items in here. So we have, maybe here's some product data I can go into. It says I have to submit on these. I can click and open actually right to the area in terms of where it's asking me to actually submit on this instead of having to go through and do this manually. So this is a real game changer for a lot of the folks that maybe are project engineers or office engineers that have to do maybe a submittal review or procurement log. So something to think about there, but definitely worth its time and
So
saving of hours.
my question is, Michael, is
Yeah.
it accurate?
Yeah, so it is very accurate. I mean, the best part too is it'll come up with errors, right? And that's based on a lot of these architects and engineers are copying and pasting specs from old jobs to new jobs, so they might not have the same formatting, or they might see something weird. And so we'll kind of highlight that with a little exclamation mark to let you know, like, hey, something weird is happening here. We missed some information. Go back and check. And you also have the ability to edit and update a lot of these items as well. So you can start to change some of these things as you're reviewing. So again, these are tools, right? This is just like a hammer. We got to figure out how to use a hammer correctly. We got to use the auto specs correctly. This is to hopefully save you time and save you effort. But again, you are going to be responsible for putting together the submittal log, the procurement log, and you should be going through and double checking a lot of this information. But I would say, I don't have like a percentage, but I mean, it's highly accurate in terms of the time and effort it's going to save you for putting together a submittal log.
So how does it get from the plan set to in here? Is it like I don't know, like Bluebeam has like OCR or whatever that would scan everything in? Is it the same
That's
kind of thing?
Yeah, very similar.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a OCR technology, so optimal character recognition. And we do that both for the auto specs piece, we do that for the actual drawings, and then we also have a new specs tool that is just for essentially viewing your specifications. So like if we go in here, I have my sheets tool. So I have all my different sheets that are a part of this project. And when I go in and I originally actually upload my new sheets and my new drawings, I can drag and drop them in here from a PDF. I can also upload it from like a Revit file. But once I go through, it'll automatically tag all of my drawings with the additional links and different things that are associated with it. Let's see if I've got one that maybe is let's go
That's my favorite tool at the moment.
the sheets tool.
Specifications on build.
Yeah, yeah. Specs tool is slick. But so like Christy, like when we upload the drawings, it'll automatically hyperlink to the other section cuts and the like blow ups of some of the other areas. So I can click this and it'll allow me to jump right to this sheet, right? So I can jump from section to section, just so I can see and understand, you know, the links that are happening from those files. So instead of having to sift through the actual drawings, we do that for you with like the OCR stuff.
And just to call that out, like just to reiterate what Michael is saying, you know, the tool is automatically creating his hyperlinks for you rather than you having to create them yourself.
Exactly. Yep. And it'll automatically create these different disciplines, and you can update and add in your own custom tags as well. So if you like to sift your drawings by floor or by specific discipline type, you can do that here as well.
This makes me want to go back and be a project engineer. How about you,
I know,
Archie?
life would be easy, right?
No, I'll pass on that.
I feel like
I know,
haven't done good.
but I'll tell you, I put together, and it sounds like maybe you too, Michael. I don't know how much experience. Well, you're an architecture major, but I've been a field engineer, project engineer. And so those of you that are students that are listening to this is a huge tool. I mean, this is just amazing. And it's interesting, Michael and Sophie, one of the questions that I'm actually teaching like a technical writing class, and we're talking about resumes and asking questions in interviews and stuff. And I told them, I said, you really need to have a question on your resume that asks them, where are you in the digital world right now? You know, what are you doing as a company to get from, where you are now to 5 years from now, and what software tools are you using in project controls and things like that? Because, we've got Central Valley companies that are still working off of Excel spreadsheets, and they're doing things by hand. And I told the students, I said, you need to ask those questions. If you want to work for a company like that, that's great. But just know that, 5 years down the road, your skill level is going to be really behind because of this whole digital age that we're heading into.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. And I think that hopefully, especially with like the bug groups, right? Like this is the exposure, hopefully, that is starting to get the wheels spinning and understanding of like, hey, maybe I really do like this company. You're working for this company that is in Excel spreadsheets, but now, all right, you've learned a little bit about this software tool and you see how this company does it. And they do it really well with Excel spreadsheets, but you see the efficiency gains that can be made from some of these software and these other tools. And maybe you're the person to kind of usher in this new era of using this new tool, but like utilizing the things that you're learning from these, folks that have a ton of experience, because we still need those folks. They are, good and there for a reason. But being able to bring in these software tools and being able to uh, show them the power of it is definitely going to be really powerful.
And this seems fairly user friendly. Maybe I'm pie in the sky because I use a lot of software, but it seems pretty intuitive,
Yeah, I mean, and again, like we were talking, a lot of the theory in terms of the workflows that are happening in construction are all here, and there's nothing, crazy about a lot of these pieces, right? Like we still have a repository for all of our files. We can still, permission and do all the same things that you're doing on your internal network or your internal server. But one of the powerful things is we've got the power of having like a viewer in here that you can now view these actual files. So let's look at something that has at least a couple versions that maybe is a Revit file. So instead of having to, like, if you were on your internal network, you would open up your Revit file and then you would have to have a Revit license to view it. Here, you don't need that. We can just go in here, we can open up the architectural model and take a look and see what's happening here. So this is just natively a viewer of the Revit file in here. And we can start to understand some of the information in here. We have, section cuts that we can start to play around with, see what we're looking at. We can fly around the model. All of these different pieces allow us another glimpse and additional data points and information to make better decisions just by viewing this. Whereas previously, you maybe had to download it and open it in Revit, which is pretty cool. Another thing that I really like, I don't know, hopefully, RJ, maybe you're using this in terms of some of your functionality, but we can start to compare these models. So let's look at what happened from version 1 to version 2. And we actually get a breakdown and understanding of, we've got 3 boxes on the right-hand side. We can see all the things that have been added. We can see all the things that have been removed. And then we can see all the things that have been modified. And one of the other functionalities here is we actually can see it side by side. So I can look at one model where, oh, this model actually looks like maybe they went in and did all the F&E, right? So they put in all of the furniture on this side. So it looks like, all right, we didn't have all this furniture in here before. Looks like the architect said they were going to do that, and they finally gave us what we needed here to get our F&E, right? So pretty cool to be able to compare and see that information real time from each version, which is pretty powerful if you have that level of detail in your models. So pretty
So
slick
let me
here.
understand this, Michael. So
Yeah.
when you get Autodesk Construction Cloud, it has all the software embedded in it already. So Revit.
So the Autodesk Construction Cloud, the licenses are separate and it's not embedded. It has the ability to talk to Revit, but in this sense, we essentially are taking some of the functionality, like the viewing of a Revit file, and just made it web-based. So Revit is still going to be a desktop tool that you're going to have to open your model in if you want to change it. So again, Revit is more of that architectural, maybe mechanical design tool that you're going to actually, update the design, you're going to edit the design and be a part of that design and engineering process. Where this is more of, hey, I am the contractor. I want to see those same files without all those editing capabilities to understand maybe what's changed.
Like
So,
what
okay.
ACC does is um, it helps access the information for those that are not in the design. Or, if an owner wants to look at it at a model, you don't want the owner to open up a Revit program, which is, it's not the best intro to models if an owner has to open up a Revit file. So what ACC does is, because of the model viewer, anybody that needs to look at a model, including an owner who might not be very technologically savvy, able to go in here as easy as what Michael showed, look at the model, dissect it, and investigate that model.
And
It's a model
so
viewer.
in order
Exactly.
to be able to modify it, you have to have ACC, you'd have to have Navisworks, you'd have to have Building Connected, you'd have to have Revit, all these other software programs along with ACC.
For the model specifically, you would only need Revit, but for those other pieces, they're kind of like purpose-built other tools that you can edit and kind of work through other workflows. So maybe I can show you a little bit more of that. So like, again, um, in docs and build, this is really just the viewer for the model. But then we have a lot of functionality that we can work through essentially, and we can create issues in here. So there's a lot of creation and editing functionality that can happen in the tool specifically. But when we're talking about the model itself will probably always be kind of edited and changed, and from the design side, always done in Revit.
And it's similar to, if you're looking at plans, that comparison tool, Christy, I think, is one that I always love to show in Bluebeam. So you're
Oh
thinking
yeah,
about that compared tool. What Michael just showed you was, obviously a 3D model. But we can do that with just 2D plans as well. So it's just kind of another way to be able to visualize, um, and just like the 2D plans are going to be modified outside of Bluebeam, so is the 3D, the 3D model is going to be modified in a different software as well.
yeah. So we can do a lot of that comparison um, here as well from addendums. Doesn't look like anything actually changed here, but again, you can overlay drawings and understand what's changed from each of those individual PDFs, very similar to Bluebeam. I don't think, yeah, it doesn't look like there's any changes on these.
But it's funny. I mean, I love it's even the same or almost the same colors too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very classic. Yeah. So, so yeah, we have a lot of those similar functionalities. Maybe Christy, for you, from a scheduling perspective, we have our schedule tool. Again, this is not an authoring tool, really. This is for kind of that consumption and viewing. So I can go in, I can select my schedule. I can do a compare right in here as well, which is pretty cool to understand maybe what's changed. I also can search. So compared to maybe what I used to deal with was just a big 11 by 17. I couldn't see, what was happening with masonry, right? So I can search and find the information with keywords, which is nice. I can also start to tie them to certain activities and other parts of the platform, which is pretty interesting. So let's say maybe second floor masonry, things are maybe running behind, and it's because we had to create an RFI. I can link this RFI to this ID line item and allow that information to kind of allow us to connect the dots of what actually happened, as compared to maybe previously I'd create an RFI and it would be on its island. It's not really tied to the schedule to understand, what's happening there.
So you can at least link like a P6 schedule to this or a Microsoft project schedule, but you can only view it or compare a few things with it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can essentially upload your newest version, compare the different versions. We are working on some functionality that would be more of a like live updating here, probably. I don't know when, but essentially it would be, we have a tool called Desktop Connector, which is a tool that essentially turns your it's almost like when you have Dropbox, right? You have like the extra icon where you can see that network and just access those files from your internal. It'd be very similar, where you would just save your P6 file on your desktop to the desktop connector, and then it would automatically load to here. So that's something we are currently working on too. So
And it's interesting, because, I've worked with Oracle products for my whole career, and they've
yeah,
never really had a good comparison tool for schedules.
yeah,
So it'd be interesting to drop, a couple updates in and just see what this does in comparison to theirs, because I would say it's never been an easy thing to do. Nothing's ever
right.
easy in Oracle anyway, but or Microsoft Project comparing two schedules, that's never been an easy thing to do with schedules. So
Yeah. And we have some pull planning type stuff, so we can take different chunks of that master plan to then break down into, maybe specific activities and who folks are, and, kind of build that out in here for maybe shorter duration. So you can have your different swim lanes in here and create different tasks. So that's something that you can actually create in here. But again, it's more just trying to figure out some of the details for maybe the short term items that are ahead of you in your schedule.
And I think the scheduling tool also kind of demonstrates the interconnectedness of ACC and the collaborative nature of it. I think one of the students mentioned, I think something about collaboration and kind of being excited about that piece. Or I might be misremembering. But regardless, I think there's so much or I feel like in a lot of curriculum I'm seeing more emphasis on collaboration. Um,
Yeah.
I think when we were talking to Wei, he was talking about uh maybe senior capstones, connecting CM and I think architectural engineering. But
yeah.
so I think we're starting to talk a lot more about collaboration, and I think just what Michael was pointing out with the scheduling tool of like you can, while you're not creating the schedule within ACC, you're bringing it in, and then you're able to create a more holistic picture of your project. So you're able to connect an RFI or a form or files to specific parts of the schedule. And it is kind of helping to create this more well-rounded, integrated picture of a project too.
Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure. And all these programs kind of do things a little bit differently. I think from what I've seen, out in the industry, Autodesk is probably the more, I don't want advanced. It's going to be interesting. Those of you that are students coming in, is that next week we're going to have Procore come in, and I've worked with Procore a little bit, not in like probably the last 3 years, but to me, it's much more simplified, than say a Bluebeam or an Autodesk suite type software, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the thing is though, is it's not the way I see it, and I've worked with a lot of different companies, for a very small company, Procore or medium-sized company, Procore would work great, but you're not going to use that on, say, a big skyscraper project or a big multi-phase project or something. You're going to use it more of an Autodesk or something that has more power to it.
Yeah.
Another thing too is, I don't know about you guys, but Procore would get weighed down if it had too much information in it. You
Yeah.
get on these big projects and it wouldn't run, where the Autodesk Construction Cloud, I bet, is set up so that you can run mega projects on it.
Yeah, and we have, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, we run on AWS servers, but like we have unlimited storage, right? So like you can upload. There's definitely limitations on some of the like amounts, but like there's commas between those, right? So it's
Yeah.
like for the most part, you should be pretty set. We have those limitations listed, so if something comes up, you can definitely let us know and everything. But yeah, for the most part, it works out really well. All right, so that's really our project management piece. I talked about the auto specs piece. Um, I wanted to maybe quickly talk about design collaboration. So maybe for our architecture students, this will be more relevant to you, but this is really a process to be able to federate and consolidate models over time. So this is really so you can track as you are a part of a design process, the different pieces that you need to have submitted in terms of like the different packages. So, you've got your maybe conceptual, schematic, and all these different pieces. You can start to track those from those individual contributors. So we've got the structural designer, we've got the architectural designer, maybe we've got mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. So that way you can start to consolidate and get all these models together so you have your complete package together in ACC. So this is just a way to manage that process. You can also start to look at that model as well in here. So as you're starting to see this over time, you can also you see these little pins in here. Those are little issue pins. So as you are seeing different pieces that maybe need something to be resolved, you can create an issue, which essentially is a task for somebody to essentially fix. So you can assign a task to someone, and then you can give them additional details in terms of due date, what needs to be done. Looks like this was maybe something to do with I don't know who put this in here, but so yeah, doesn't look like anything very pertinent. But anyways, you can essentially use this to manage that process with all the stakeholders and being a little bit more transparent of everybody's responsibilities. It looks like I have my hand raised on.
Yeah, I think you might have hit it, Michael.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say we have about 10 minutes, and so I just wanted to let you guys know.
Yeah, here maybe I'll do two quick other pieces, and then we'll do some questions if anybody's got it. We also have flash detection in the cloud, so this is a way to do some like light coordination clash detection. So you have all of your different models you can load in here. We can do Revit files, Navisworks files. Let's see if I've got one. Maybe let's just check out what's happening with the fourth floor and my MEP. Cool. So I can go in here. It automatically does all my clashes. I can see, yeah, it looks like we've got a light issue with this duct. I can then go in here, select it, create an issue, have them, actually, let's go zoom in. Let's click right here. This will create an issue, and I can assign this to, Sophie, you're not probably in here yet, so I can't assign it to you. Let's give it to Alex Butcher. He'll appreciate that. But I can assign responsibility essentially for, hey, they need to go fix this duct. It needs to be adjusted to be out of the path of this light, right? So just some light clash detection that can be done in the cloud. This also connects with Navisworks, so you can have that connectivity from Navisworks to ACC, which is nice. And then my final piece I'll do is really just quantity takeoffs, right? So you can do this in Bluebeam, you can do this in on-screen takeoff. We have the very same functionality, right? You can do your picks and clicks and this is just a ceiling takeoff, right? So you can go around and do your arcs and do your counts. We do the symbol detection, all of those basic functionalities. But what we think sets us apart again is really, we come from the AutoCAD Revit world. Let's try to use the most that we can out of that model. So let's go maybe to doors. I think I have some doors in here. Let's go to my model. Boop-a-doop-bop. Jump in here. And so with some good model data, what we can start to do, we have this fun little button here where we can click it and it forms clusters based on the individual element types. So what we now have here is based on all the information in the model. I didn't have to do anything except click that button. But it breaks it down by all the individual element types. So I have all my doors here, right? Now I can start to quantify these a lot simpler than having to go by each level, each floor, and counting all of those individual elements. I can do that for concrete. I can do cubic yards. I can do all of those things right in here just through those pieces. So I can select them. I can also search by the individual properties.
So wait a second. So you had the model and you grouped all those doors together so that you can, I'm like, wait a second, because I know how Bluebeam works, and I'm like, well, wait a second here. So you said, okay, pull all the doors off like in a laydown area, and you can count them all.
Yeah, essentially, exactly. So based on these based on these properties, right? I can essentially understand and group them within these categories. And you'll also know, well, this one doesn't have it because it's a decent model, but like in some of these other models, there'll be like some of these categories that they're like unknown or like I have no idea what this is, and it's like, all right. I guess we don't have anything. So you'll be able to tell the quality of your model by the breakdown of these individual pieces from your model elements as well. So yeah, it was essentially based on that property type. It separates it. Let's put our model back together.
Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
And where's all the data though? Where's all the counting? Like, where's the bottom drawer, Sophie?
Yeah. So so when I go in here and I actually start selecting, and I've sifted now through here, I can essentially count these, and it's just exactly like you would do on screen takeoff. So I'm just highlighting these doors, and then I can go assign it to this piece. So it's like, all right, I know this is this door. I can essentially count it, and then I have my bottom drawer, as Christy calls it. I have them all in here, right? So this is my total count of those type of doors. This is a wrong maybe classification. Let's do it by takeoff type. So yeah, I can essentially break down the individual package types into those individual quantity takeoff line items.
And then you can export this to
a markup list.
To Excel or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Very similar, but it's more graphic.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then we can start to do things that are interesting too with snapshots. So like, all right, we get our maybe we're doing a design build, we get our 90% drawings. We can do our takeoff there, take a snapshot, and then if we get our new set of drawings, we can essentially copy and paste all of those takeoffs and then continue with maybe the updates, and we can compare those, which is pretty cool. So some things there, but I'll stop maybe there. We have some, maybe Christy, for you, we've got some classroom exercises, and these have data, they have classroom assets and the actual models as a part of them that you can use, and some walkthrough guides and things. So some great things. And then we have some on-demand learning as well. So folks that are looking to just maybe go off on their own, and these are just on-demand videos where you can start to learn a lot of the basics of the different pieces of Autodesk construction.
Oh, nice. So kind of like webinars or something, or videos that you
Exactly.
can watch. Nice.
Exactly.
This is really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought us on. This was great. I appreciate it. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. I know I didn't really talk about maybe some of the things that are coming up, but I mean, we have a public-facing roadmap that is available for you guys to kind of check out to see what our North Star is. I know AI is very top of mind right now, and that is something we are looking and slowly building
Mhm.
into our platform. You'll see that actually in our specifications tool first. It just came out for like our public beta. So that is something where essentially it's like a chat GPT for your specifications. So it's like, hey, what's the concrete mix design for second floor of building A? Instead of you having to go sift through your specification, it goes and finds that information and provides you the answer and then links to where they found it. So that way you can double check as well. So some of that
Cool.
information in AI, I think that you're going to see is going to become more and more of a thing that is hopefully going to be something that is helping you do your job better, not looking to, again, replace anybody. We need strong, smart, educated folks to really, push the industry forward like you guys. So
And just same on the sustainability side with some new tools coming out. And I think
yeah,
mentioning that sustainability was in construction was one of the things you're most interested in. So
yeah, here,
Nice.
let me I'll drop this in the chat. We just released a new update for our Autodesk Takeoff where you can do some carbon accounting. So you can actually start to determine the embodied carbon for your construction project based on your takeoffs right in our tool. So pretty cool.
Interesting. Well, you guys, this was kind of eye-opening, and being in the industry for so long and seeing all the transformations of all these different tools, I definitely can say that this is I don't know what Oracle's doing because I haven't been in touch with them for a while, but this kind of it's definitely it's different. It's similar to Bluebeam, but it's a little bit different, more graphic, I would say, more 3D,
Yeah,
and so that's really amazing. And I really hope that we're able to use this more in the program.
yeah,
I think, and actually, I'm not, I'll save that until when we get off the recording here, but anyway, so, we lost a few people, but Anurag, Karan, Hemant, do you guys have any questions or anything? Anurag, do you have any questions or anything? Oh, there
No,
you
Professor, I am good.
go. Okay. Have you seen Autodesk before?
Yes, Professor. I had used AutoCAD in my bachelor's for a project.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you've used some of the individual tools, not necessarily Autodesk Construction Cloud. Yeah.
Sorry, it's ultimately got.
Yeah, and Karan, did you have a question?
Yes, Professor. First of all, thank you, Michael and Sophie. That is one of the greatest presentations I've ever seen. And that too about Autodesk, I know it is huge, but after listening what you guys talked about it, it was like, yeah, I think this is another chapter students have to look into. And my question when you're talking about the Autodesk Cloud, um, Autodesk Construction Cloud for the takeoffs. How do you compare it with the Bluebeam and like what are the advantages? I would ask. And the other question is when we talking about the 3D models takeoffs, how do you see them in the next coming years, like maybe next 5 years? I should ask this to the Bluebeam professionals too, but yeah, since you guys are here, I wanted to ask you that.
yeah, definitely. No, good questions. So maybe from the comparison to Bluebeam, I would say that just because a lot of the official contract documents are still like the legal requirement for a lot of the interactions for the architect and engineer with the contractor and the owner. Most of the information is still going to be having to be pulled from the PDF drawings. So you're still going to have to do the takeoff probably from those 2D PDFs, whether that's in Bluebeam. You can do that in our tool as well. So I think it doesn't really matter which tool you do the 2D takeoff. But I think as we start getting into more and more of the owners and the architects being comfortable with sharing their models and having a lot of this model data and information in here, that is where we're going to get some really good and quick quantifications done, right? Like doing a 2D takeoff takes some time. You're clicking every single one. I mean, there's tools that are looking to simplify that with AI as well, but again, we need people to be checking it that have done this for a long time. So at least from the Bluebeam and the Autodesk side, I think there's always going to be a 2D element. And then for the 3D side, I think, yeah, we've got to get better buy-in from the architects and owners willing to share their model information so that we can use that better, because otherwise we're having to redo a lot of that work in the like BIM coordination phase. So it's like, all right, I can get a model and then I have to essentially rebuild that model so it's at a level of detail that I can do a good quality quantity takeoff. And so I think in the future, you're going to see additional functionality built into it with schedule, right? So you're going to start doing all of these different pieces of like, all right, I can take a model and I can put labor resourcing. I can start doing procurement with it. So I can just put a QR code on it, scan it. It tells me exactly when it's going to be on site. So I think we're going to see more of these connected workflows over time that are going to be integrated throughout the project lifecycle, not just estimating and not just quantity takeoffs. It's going to be the entire piece. It's going to start there, but it's going to have a lot of that additional rich metadata and information. So maybe it's tied back to a specific supplier. So like when you're doing the quantity takeoff, it's going to tell you everything that maybe is delayed. And you're like, oh, I've got to switch out this mechanical duct or this rooftop unit because it's delayed by 2 years. So I've got to flip that out and get it from a different supplier. I think those are the places that you're going to see us going in the next, couple of years, and hopefully, we'll be a part of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
think
Oh,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
think that is really good. The another question, I think it's for both of you, Michael and Sophie. Any advice would you give to students who wants to start their career in BIM and CM? And uh, and the next question following that is any certification would you recommend from Autodesk?
Yeah, good question. From a certification standpoint, I would definitely maybe check out here. I can put this in here. These are those courses that I was talking about earlier, where you can essentially finish the certificate and then you can add yourself you can get a LinkedIn badge that you can put on your public facing LinkedIn, which I think is a good opportunity. We are working on building out additional certifications. So our certificate program right now is really focused on a lot of the design tools. So we have Revit, we have like AutoCAD, and like Civil 3D, I think. And then we have these badges. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll have some additional certificates that you can get that'll allow you to kind of prove your knowledge base of a lot of these software tools. And then, sorry, and I'll pause there. Maybe Sophie, is there anything else you wanted to add or?
No, I think that's it for the certifications.
I'm just going to do a quick wrap up here. We're finishing up this presentation. And so I just wanted to thank Michael and Sophie and thank everybody. And I'm going to say goodbye here tonight and turn off the recording here. So thanks so much, you guys.